What is going on, fellas? Today we are breaking down some teams here, going through some fantasy football rosters over on the site, and we'll cover some trade questions and other things off the top of this video. Of course, if you guys want to get your team covered, we have had a lot of these in the hopper, so we're getting to the ones that have come in pretty much since our last live stream, which was on Thursday. Can't remember what day we did that exactly, but we'll cover the trade questions and the super messages first, just because the team reviews take a little bit longer. P. Millen did send in for a buy, sell, hold report. So quickly, for those of you guys that don't know, you guys can get buy, sell, hold reports from us. It's a separate product from regular team reviews. And you go to the trade section of the site and you can redeem your voucher if you're an annual sub, or you can purchase one outright. And essentially it just looks like this, where we look at your roster, we think of, okay, what players would be good buys for you? This team in particular from Quick Six was in definite need of running back production. So that's why a lot of the buys are running back related. And then we also give you sells and holds based on the rest of your roster. Obviously, some of the sells here were wide receiver depth that he had, some of the non-productive running backs like Jonathan Brooks, and then also like an older running back like Joe Mixon. And I also suggested Caleb Williams, but that was pre-draft that I did that, so that might be changed a little bit. But P. Millen, yours is coming very soon, and we will get that for you later today. But for those of you guys that don't know what buy, sell, hold reports are, that's basically what they're all about. And then holds are essentially just good options for your roster. So D1 and only. The trade that he has listed here is he would be receiving the 103 in Breece Hall. He would be selling presumably an early to mid 26 first and trading down essentially from Hunter, I would imagine. But I don't know. What do you
That's what I'm asking. Is this guy coming up for Omar or for Hunter? Because I have a completely different answer for each of those scenarios. Check the team.
I don't think my answer would change all that much. I would just, because both of those guys are relatively similar in terms of my startup rankings for me. I prefer Hunter, but I wouldn't say that the trade changes dramatically in either direction. Because like the way I look at it is this: you're getting a similarly valued player, and I would value Breece Hall higher than an early to mid first next year.
I think that's about his value for what it's worth. But I have Travis Hunter 21 overall. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but it changes my opinion if it's Hunter or if it's Hampton. Can we check the team?
Yeah, we can check the team here. So
I'm curious if this guy is doing it for a running back is what I'm assuming. Maybe.
Yeah, D1 and only's team is probably, does it say
the practice squad? He's the practice squad, and the other guy is the other highlight.
Okay, so he has a very, very good wide receiver core already. So maybe he's thinking, oh, this guy's coming up for Hunter. I could use Hunter less than I could use Hampton, and I'm getting some juice, and I'm gonna grab Hampton and Breece Hall essentially in this trade.
So let me see the other team real quick, so we can get a. Okay, so he's definitely doing it for Hunter.
He's going to get Hunter, and you're essentially evaluating your own roster going, I already have he also has Thomas already too, so maybe that's partially fueling why he wouldn't want to do this trade. He does not want to have Hunter and Brian Thomas on the same team. Again, we don't really think that's a big deal, but some people do.
Yeah. It makes sense. If you value or if your league values Omar and Hunter closely, I think that's fine. For me, though, would I have the cojones to make a move trading away Hunter? No.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm much more likely to do this trade given the strength of your wide receiver core and the need that you have for running backs. Like, I mean, you go to the season with Breece Hall and Amari and Hampton as your lead backs here. Again, your quarterbacks are pretty suspect, I would say. In a one quarterback league, especially, you don't have anybody that's a real difference maker. Maybe tight end wise, you're not really in the greatest spot either, but you have the 201 in this year's class. Maybe you can secure one of the top tight ends with one of those picks, or maybe you on the clock, you're able to move up for like a Warren or a Loveland or something. I think this team, once you spend these picks, can be in decent shape, but it's not like a complete juggernaut by any means.
Well, yeah, we got to contextualize too. This is a 10-team start 9. So realistically, if you're doing the math there, if it's a start 9 league, there's 10 teams in your league. There's only 90 relevant starting caliber players in this setup. So you got to think about that in terms of scarcity, in terms of depth specifically. Like if we look at Charlie's Angel, for example, in a one quarterback league, start 9 league, you're starting Jaden Daniels, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tucker Kraft, and then I'm assuming T. Higgins.
T. Higgins, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe there's 2 flexes, but regardless, you had another flex to that spot. I didn't really like count off the head there. But like you're just seeing there's a lot of teams, like star power really, really does matter. So if you go down to your team here, if you're able to supplement the running back position, I think you have star power at wide receiver. You would have to add a tight end, which potentially you can do with the 201 asset, whether that's potentially trading or getting like a Tyler Warren or a Colson Loveland type, maybe trading the pick if you can get like, would you be willing to go after like a Kittle with this circumstance, or would you need someone younger?
I would want someone younger because, like, even Breece Hall is kind of bordering on the range where I'm like, this might not be a year one juggernaut. You might want to be still kind of thinking almost on the 1 year punt angle, which is why Hampton makes sense, obviously, because Hampton's a rookie running back and he's probably going to be more valuable in year 2 than year 1 anyways. So I still like the trade. I think, again, this is just a trade review. We're not actually going through his entire team essentially, but I do slightly like this side better.
It just feels a little bit rich. Knowing that I value Hunter over Omar, and I view Breece on par with the early to mid first.
Yeah. You could like. I mean, if you're willing to do a different trade, you don't want to.
Can you do this with the 201 instead of your 2026 early to mid first? I'd rather do that.
Yeah, that could definitely make sense there. I think that would make some sense.
I'm curious.
Anyways, I think it's very close. It's a very close deal. I think in a vacuum, I slightly do like the Breece side, but it is really close.
Let me go put that counter into the analyzer just to kind of see like how close we are here. So it was 103 Breece for 102 plus a 2026 early to mid first. So I'm going to counter that with
201.
You see, because
early second and 25.
I just did 112 because I view 112 and 201 on the same level. So it's just an easier gauge. If we plug that in, it spits out almost exactly fair trade here. If I quickly.
Okay. So we'll give them we keep the 102 side. Yeah. We'll keep the 102 side, keep the early first, and maybe counter with the 201 if you're able to do that. Might be challenging because psychologically people would view the 112 a lot differently than the 201, even though they're essentially the same asset. But definitely makes some sense there. Let's move on to the next super message here. FF Doc says, would you trade 207 and 208 for 203 and 303? So essentially you're getting out of that Tootin, Besh, Scatabo, Milrow kind of territory. You have 2 picks in there and you're getting up, presumably catching the end of Burden, Dart, Higgins, Harvey, and whoever else.
The best piece of context with that too is guess who's buried on the sleeper app? Who we have evaluated.
Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams is buried on the sleeper app, and you might get him at the 303.
So you get a better second round pick, and you get a guy that we would have valued in that 27, 28, 29 range anyways.
I mean, even worst case scenario, like who I have ranked around 303 is like Ellis Manor, Harold Fannin, maybe Dylan Sampson's available for you. Like you're probably fine there. I think it's worth getting the shot on like a Burden or a Harvey or a Higgins or a Dart if you need another quarterback or something like that.
For sure.
All right, so let's get, those are just the questions that we had. We can rip into the actual team reviews here. And I should point out off the top again, Zach Mikowski, we need a resubmission from you as we talked about in the last live stream because we just got a sleeper.
We can't do the screenshots.
It's just not good enough information for those of you guys who want to get reviews. It's way better like this.
Full transparency. We pride ourselves in giving you guys as concise reviews as we possibly can. And simply put, we don't get enough context from a screenshot to be able to do that. Having the My Teams feature, seeing the context of the league, understanding your rebuilders, your contending teams, understanding a little bit of context with that league market helps you get the best review that we possibly can give you.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of you guys that do have a team review in here, we will make sure that this is timestamp sent back to you as we go through them. Once we hit the next question button, essentially they go through and they send them to you. And also we'll timestamp this live stream at the end of it so you guys can go back and check your teams out. So Akaydn, who I'm in a couple of leagues with.
Akaydn. You keep calling it Akaydn. It's 2 different people.
Is it 2 different people?
Yes.
Oh, really? I've been under the assumption that it was Akaydn this entire time.
I've said that to you before.
Okay, I guess you definitely have said that to me before then. But anyways, Akaydn, different person. His team name is Blitzberg there. You can see he's about middle of the pack. He said his toughest team. The guy at number 1 is stacked. Yeah, as you can see,
he's got a Danny squad.
It's a ridiculous squad. He said the rest of the league is close, which it appears it is, at least up until like the 10th best team.
Frenchie's getting cooked, but everybody else.
I mean, these guys kind of stink. But started 2 years ago and tried to accumulate picks and players, but number 1 guy had most of them last year. I just want to look at this guy's team really quick. Yeah, this is a squad and a half. He's got 3 1s and 3 2s this year, and an extra 1 and 2 2s next year. Like this. This is a problem. This team's going to be a problem.
So did he just promise the 2 guys in last that he would forever do their laundry, make them breakfast, maybe tuck them in at night? Because like what actually happened? Because, okay, let's just say go back up again. So those two teams are 7,000 behind the next two. Let's just say you take that 14,000 value, you add them each 7,000, you take it from the guy up top. The guy up top will still have 27,000 value, which is 6,000 clear of everybody else. So it's very clear he just fleeced the rest of this these last few guys.
Yeah, this is unfortunately a truth in a lot of people's dynasty leagues is that there's someone who knows what they're doing and a couple, absolute tacos who have no idea what they're doing. So, but anyways, this is the team that we're reviewing here. Akaydn says it's one of his toughest teams, basically. And as he kind of detailed there, this is an absolute monster that he's got to compete with. One thing I will say is when there's only one monster, anything can happen in the fantasy football playoffs. As long as you're a top 2 to 3 team, I'm not going to continuously rebuild until you're better than that guy.
It's just a matter of when there's 3 monsters, then you're no. But when there's one monster, I agree with you. Hey, I have a really, really nice dynasty portfolio. I have a ton of monsters in that portfolio. I can tell you a few stories where they lost in the semifinal in that first round of the playoffs. It happens. Or better yet, they don't even get a bye.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a 1 quarterback, 12 team start 10, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, that's definitely all you need with Justin Fields in the wicker there. And then you also have Chase Brown is pretty much the only running back. And then Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Chris Olave, Romo Dunze, pretty good wide receiver core, lacking some true absolute difference making star power. But if you added a stud on top of these guys, you'd feel pretty good about that wide receiver core.
The assets too.
Yeah, and then at the tight end position, you don't really have a difference maker there. But again, you have the assets too, given where your picks fall in the draft and that kind of thing. So for me, this is a 1 quarterback start 10. Realistically, the only way you're competing with that guy is by getting difference-making assets. At quarterback, I think you have the pieces in the framework there that you have hopefully difference-making assets there. And then
I believe
at running back, you're going to need to add some pieces in that direction because you don't really have anything outside of Chase Brown. What are your thoughts on what you would do with these rookie picks? Because I have a pretty decent idea of what I would do with 104 and 109, and then also what I would kind of maybe want to do. So my thought is this. At 104, you're going to get one of Ted McMillan, Hunter, or Hampton to fall to you. You could maybe venture, see if you could move up for Hunter or something at 102. You could also just sit pat and take McMillan, or if Hunter, if falls to you at that point. What are your thoughts on 104 first? And then we'll get into the rest of them.
I think it's got to be best player available. Like you said, there's a pretty clear top 4 for us there with Genty, Hunter, Hampton, and Tedero McMillan. It's close though, because you need a running back. I personally would try to see if you can move up from the 109 to get into the Henderson Judkins range. However, if you are unable to, I'd be comfortable taking Caleb there. I think 104 has got to be best player available no matter how you slice it. And then at 109, I would kind of take the falling value, whether it's Henderson, whether it's Judkins, or maybe at that point, it says no tight end premium, so I probably wouldn't go the direction of the tight ends. But regardless, you'll see what ends up falling to you at the 109. There's a pretty clear area.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out because I think, a conventional wisdom would tell you should probably just take a tight end at 109, but I actually would probably assume that you should have maybe one of Emeka Egbuka or Quinshon Judkins falling to you. If you don't, you could always move up a spot or two if you needed to. My thought would be, my thought would be trying to get up from the 203, 204, 208 area and see if you can get back into the first round to get a tight end at that point. At 111, 112, if Loveland or Warren is on the board, maybe all it costs you is 203 and 204 for let's say the 110 or the 111 is where Loveland or Warren is on the board. In a league format like this, 1 quarterback, you already have a pretty solid, stable roster. You could definitely just move up for a tight end with one of those other picks.
You have a ton of assets, but you need needle movers. The best way to get needle movers, I'm perfectly comfortable trading up with this team. Well, plus 109. Can we see who has the 106 here?
Yes, let me take
because 106 puts you in range to get Henderson or
this guy
Judkins.
Has 106.
This guy's got a pretty stacked up top team, but kind of lacks depth here. Could you maybe offer him 109 plus one of those second rounders to get at the 106? So let's experiment that with right now. So 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, the league setup.
Yes, 1 quarterback, start 10. So
10 team, no premium, start 10. And there's a half PPR or full PPR? Full PPR. So I plugged those settings into the trade calculator. Now let's kind of experiment here. So we were just talking about the 109 versus the 106 in terms of valuation. I'll plug both sides in. 109 there, 106 here. Then we go to the second rounder. What are the second round picks?
You've got early second, so just put early second in there.
I'll put mid in case it can be done with the 108. We'll just take a look here.
You mean the 208? But yeah.
Yeah. So the side actually likes the 106 side there. Maybe it'll cost you one of the 203 or the 204.
I would say 109 plus 204 is probably what it's going to cost you, most likely.
If you could
106.
If you could do 109 plus 204, I'm more than comfortable doing that. And like you said, if you want to move plus 203 to get up, would 203 plus 208 get you to the 112 is what I'm.
Yeah, because if the other thing is too, like the tight end, like you wait till one of the tight ends goes. Let's say you're comfortable with Loveland or Warren, and then let's say Loveland goes off the board at like 111 and Warren's still on the board, or let's say Loveland goes off the board 108 or something, and then at 110, 111 you want to trade up for Warren. You could definitely do that. It is a one quarterback league, so it's going to be essentially a pick. After, because Cam Ward's probably not going to go before you're selecting a tight end there.
If the cost is, let's say, 203 plus 208 plus one of those 2026 twos, you doing it if it gets you up to 111 or 112, given this context of this league format?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend. Like, if I can find one of these teams here, if I could find, like, this guy is 110, like if he would give you the 310 in return just to like balance it out a little bit, like I'd be fine doing something like that. Okay. But yeah, essentially what we're saying here, we're just kind of going around, and you can use the trade calculator for what it's worth, Blitzberg or Akaydn, and you can go through some of these scenarios here. And what I would like to do is come out of this draft with whoever falls to me at 104, Travion Henderson ideally, but maybe Judkins or Egbuka with a 109, whether you got to move up, whether someone falls to you, etc.
I would get aggressive to be able to
get aggressive to go get Henderson ideally. Yeah. And then try and get up from 203. You know, if you walk out of this draft, you have no other picks other than you walked out of it with, let's say, Tet McMillan, Travion Henderson, and Tyler Warren. That's a win. You just upgraded your tight end position. You added some stud factor into your wide receiver position, and you upgraded your running back position. Now, unfortunately, you're still going to be kind of weak at running back, but you also have tons of pick capital next year. You could potentially move in season for a productive running back and that kind of thing. Ideally, you don't have to do any of this stuff. Like, you could also just be patient. Who knows? In a non-tight end premium at 203, maybe one of those tight ends even slides to you in a 10-team league or a 12-team league. But I wouldn't be too impatient with. Like, I would just go and.
I don't view it as being impatient, to be honest. I view it as the fact that he has a lot of depth pieces. I'm perfectly comfortable, given the context of his picks, to be able to consolidate at this point. Because realistically,
you could use some of your depth pieces for what it's worth. If for whatever reason, 203 plus 208, he doesn't want to give you 111 for that, and you have to throw in Quincy
208 plus Olave,
Jalen McMillan or something, like go ahead and do that.
I would even be like, if it costed 208 plus Olave and you can go back up and get one of those late first round picks, I'd be comfortable doing that as well, given the context.
Yeah, like you're strong enough at wide receiver that you could, I mean, ideally you don't have to give up Ayuk or up as far as your wide receiver core, but if you can just use one of those other pieces to try and just get a little throw in, move the needle for the other guy. But anyways, we've gone pretty long on this team so far, but all I'm thinking here is you want to get needle moving assets, get aggressive, move up the board. If you can get aggressive even from 104 to go get Hunter at 102, you could also do that. Like maybe 104 plus 208 is all it costs you to go up to 102 to get Hunter, because the guy at 1, well, like some people at 102 are like, I don't want to pick between these guys. I'll just take whoever falls.
And that's fair. By the way, Akaydn gave some context. Dynasty newbies got robbed in the startup. That is pain. Shout out Mason. How did I know if I popped in, Danny would be talking about his teams? I mean, I got quite the portfolio, brother. I mean, you plug in some of my teams, you'd be pretty shocked. I'll just say.
Yeah, doesn't shock me. But anyways, you got a long road ahead of you. We can move on to the next team before we spend 6 hours on this one. We got. I'm not even going to pronounce Taocooney. I think that's what we got here. I'm going to just take a second every time. Taocooney. There we go.
Taocooney.
Me butchering the names of the teams is hi, Bush and Danny. Thanks for the great quality content you guys create. Appreciate it. It's really helpful. And he said, my team does need some help since it's a middle of the pack team. You guys can see Dirty Bubbles here, number 5 in a 12-team league. So not quite middle of the pack, a little bit better than that. Said more consistent wide receiver value and quality running back depth. I'm also looking to work on my trading ability.
Process, brother.
There you go. So got a pretty solid squad. I mean, it's a start 8. So in a 12 team, it's a 1 quarterback league. So it's what, a 2 flex, 2 wide receiver, that kind of format in a 1 quarterback format. But Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, and Justin Herbert, you are totally set there. No worries. You're probably going to have a lot of headachy decisions, to be honest, during the regular season. And then the rest of the team is pretty, like, again, you're missing stud, dynamic Bijan running back, dynamic, Malik Neighbors wide receiver. But for the most part, this is a really solid squad.
For sure. Can we go back up to the context of the league chart? I just kind of want to see what the valuations are at. Okay. So you're in a position now where you're closer to the second team than you are the back end teams. Like realistically, 19,000. I mean, there's just such a clear divide between the bottom teams. Like, let's not even look at the guy at the top. Obviously, the guy at the top is a juggernaut. He's like the clear favorite in this league. But specifically in terms of the context of competing, trying to get that bye week, like how much further ahead is that level of cedar guy compared to your team? Let's just take a look. Okay, so he's got Achan, doesn't really have a quarterback situation.
He's a top-heavy team, but he's got some needle movers for sure.
Yeah, he does have a lot of picks this year too. Okay, so he's definitely in a better position, but if you got to try and consolidate, the issue is what are you going to offer? Let's take a look at your team again. Like, I mean, Hawkinson first and foremost, you got to liquidate. Like, you can't really afford to hang on to Hawkinson if you can use him to try to up tier and get a needle.
This guy doesn't have a tight end at all. So what stands out to me is Breece is just like a good trade target in general across the board right now.
Yeah.
How much would it cost to go from, let's say, David Montgomery and TJ Hawkinson to Breece Hall?
Let's plug it in the calculator right now. Hall. And what is the context of this league? 12
It's a one quarterback start 8 PPR non-tight end premium.
All right. So depth does not matter at all. Got it. Okay. So start 8, 1-1-1. No 10 on premium, 10-team league, full PPR half, full PPR. 12-team league. Got it. Okay. And let's plug it in. So Breece Hall in exchange for, we said, well, Hawkinson plus Montgomery.
Yeah.
I don't really think that gets you in the neighborhood, but I mean, we'll see what the analyzer kind of says here. According to the expert rankings, Breece Hall, okay, it gets you in the area. It's a slightly win situation. I would send that as my first offer. If he says, I need a little bit more, I mean, see if you'd be able to do it.
Tank Dell, throw in Tyrone Tracy, throw in something like that.
Because realistically, those guys do not matter given the context, like I said, of this league. Context has been my favorite word today, but context is key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you're looking to get needle moving producers ideally, and right now, actually, like if you look at it realistically in terms of production value, you're actually getting more needle moving production value from your running back core than you are from your wide receiver core. Even though your wide receiver core has like pretty solid value in terms of what they give you. So you could also try and upgrade from
Hawkinson
like, let's say, a Garrett Wilson or a Brandon Ayuk or something, and see how much more on top of one of those players you could get to. Yeah, Nico Collins or a Drake London or somebody like that.
Okay, so let's plug it in for Nico. Let's look at the bottom teams of this league that really need depth, because that'll give us more key on what's more attainable. That guy's
team is absolute horse.
Horrible.
Bucky Irving, Zay Flowers, not really any. Like we want to needle moving.
Maybe sucking ears. Nope.
Really
White Walkers.
Drake London. This guy's Drake London on his team, and he could use some depth potentially.
He's got aging asses, though. I think he's probably thinks he's competing.
Yeah, that's true. This guy is Jefferson and doesn't have any running back depth. People, if this is a casual league, people who don't have running backs are some of the freest cash on planet Earth to trade to, because this guy has Tony Pollard as his only startable running back. Guys like this who have team constructions like this, they will overpay for the Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomerys, and Brian Robinsons of the world, because they just need RBs that have volume.
I was going to even suggest more. If you want to make a deal for Jefferson, I mean, Wilson, Taylor, Hawkinson plus a pick gets you in the ballpark.
See, the problem with making a move like that is that would clean some of your depth pretty well. I mean, like I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to have guys like Jonathan Taylor, Garrett Wilson, and that kind of thing. Like I would probably be more inclined, like if you wanted to go after Jefferson, I'd be more inclined to take Wilson plus the 106 and then something else potentially to get you in the neighborhood of Jefferson, just because I don't want to completely clean out my depth.
It's just JT's more valuable than the 106 in a one quarterback 12-team league start 8. And when you plug it already in with JT, it's like the Jefferson side is robbing. So I honestly think Wilson, JT, and Hawks, it's not even enough. You'd have to add on to that.
I think that's a good offer to start with for sure. Yeah. If you're wanting to go in that direction, and who knows, maybe in a casual league, you're able to float out, hey, would you be interested in just JT and JT Hawkinson 206 in another piece? Just give him a bunch of junk. Let's see if he'll do it. Like Danny's proposing you go a little bit closer to the actual value of Jefferson, but maybe inquire first if he actually wants depth.
Yeah.
Before you actually
and maybe he just says don't even bother.
What are you looking for, kind of thing.
And maybe he just tells you don't even bother. I'm not selling him. Like you don't know that. Can we check Giaco? Nothing. Okay, get off Giaco.
Yeah, and then the rest of these teams are. I mean, this guy might be an interesting one
Nico?
because he's lacking a lot of depth. Neighbors and
Okay.
Collins definitely could be interesting for this guy.
All right, let's take a look at Nico. That's the eye of my.
Yeah,
the beat of my eye.
Nico. Can you get Nico for Ayuk and Wilson together, or can you get Nico for
Wilson and Hawkinson? Does that guy have a tight end?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, he has Laporta, so he's probably not interested in Hawkinson.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, not a whole lot of tight end needy teams, unfortunately, in this league.
Can you offer? Okay, let me.
I mean, this guy has no tight end, but he also he doesn't really have anything else to give you. I mean, you could go after like Chase Brown and a pick for Hawkinson potentially.
Go back up the Nico guy quick. One more up, I believe. What, this guy?
I'm running out of space here. Sorry, there's a lot of guys. Here it is.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, JT plus Wilson, Nico. Can you get Nico plus, I don't know, even a 2026 2 for Garrett Wilson and Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, you could potentially go in that range. The problem, to me, the only problem with selling both of those guys for a needle moving asset is on a raw point per game basis. How much more valuable is Garrett?
He's got so much depth
than Garrett Wilson.
Question: a good amount. How much more valuable is Jonathan Taylor than David Montgomery on a season basis? 2 points per game. Like Nico is gonna.
I think I could argue the difference between JT and Montgomery is about equal to the difference of Garrett.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree.
I think last year JT was a 17 point per game producer. So
Nico's a threat to go over 20 points per game. Garrett Wilson,
right? But I think Wilson is a 17-ish point per game projection
until he does it.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. To me, I'm just like, I don't want to give
that's hefty. The Garrett's been like a 14, 15 point per game guy.
I think you're closer to what the end result of the deal looks like. I'm like, let's see if we can get it for cheaper to start things off.
I mean, I guess if you can get a piece on top, like it already says you're winning with Nico versus Garrett Wilson and Jonathan Taylor. Like I wouldn't try to fleece a guy.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah. Again, we're just spitballing trades here. The other thing that we maybe should talk about is at 106. You're looking at, in a one quarterback league, Cam Ward is not a part of the equation. So it's possible that you won't get Henderson or McMillan or anybody that could slide to you there at 106. You might be looking at selecting Judkins or Emeka Egbuka or whatever. One thing I wouldn't be opposed to as well, trying to get a stud on this roster, is just trading up.
Yeah, I think trading up makes a ton of sense as well. How much on top of 106 can get you into that top 3? If you can get a Garrett Wilson, if you can get a Travis Hunter, if you can get a Marion Hampton, Nash and Genti, I think that'd help a lot. Also, if you do get one of the running backs, it would now open you up to potentially move in a JT, a Walker, a Montgomery. If you wanted to also then make a wide receiver deal, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, like let's say you traded up to 103 and all it cost you was 206 and one of your depth receivers. Like let's say it's like Jaden Reed in 206 or something like that. That gets you up to 103. You take a Marion Hampton with that selection or something like that. Then you can maybe take David Montgomery plus Jalen Waddle and go after a wide receiver upgrade or something like that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Regardless, though, I would want to consolidate with this team because you have so many depth.
You also could move a quarterback too, for what it's worth. Stroud, Nix, and Herbert. You don't need all of those guys. If you want to just play matchups between Nix and Stroud because it's a young team, or maybe you want to go Nix and Herbert or something like that, you could definitely sell one of these quarterbacks.
Let's check on some of the worst teams that have no quarterbabs. Maybe you can offer them a quarterback.
No quarterbacks. This is the Jefferson team. You could definitely throw in Herbert to sweeten that deal.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you need to do, I'd be cool with that. I'd also be cool a quarterback plus the 106 for the 103. You see he has the 103 right there. Maybe a Stroud plus the 106 gets you in 103 range.
Yeah, like what if this Jefferson deal, we were talking about, okay, like Wilson, JT plus something, like what if all it costs you because he needs a quarterback this bad is you give him Wilson, CJ Stroud, David Montgomery, and your 206 and a 26-2 for Jefferson or something like that. Like you can get it done with like 5 assets because he needs depth, he wants running backs, and he needs a quarterback and all this kind of stuff. Again, you can
very much try.
You got to remember that a lot of people will see a lot of decent assets and make a move like that.
Yeah, if somebody is willing to get fleeced, then take advantage. But
you're telling me a casual league mate of yours wouldn't go crazy for Garrett Wilson, CJ Stroud, 2 second-round picks, and David Montgomery? Like a casual league mate might be like, oh, that'll help me fill out my starting roster. They'll get so excited about that.
Can I counter that?
What's up?
Justin Jefferson.
Yes, that's what you think. That's what you think, Danny. You're an educated Dynasty player. This guy might not be educated.
No, he could not be, but yeah.
He also has no running back. So you throw in 2, you give him Pacheco and B-Rob. He's going to be, I got volume now. Like, I'm ready to go.
If somebody gets horny for Pacheco and B-Rob, they should go to the facility.
They should, but you're underestimating how casual some dynasty players are. If they're lacking running backs that bad, they just want volume by any means necessary. Yeah, literally. Anyways, let's move into the next team because we're like spending 10 minutes per team right now at this point. RCollett here says, hey guys, wanted to get some trade ideas, advice on how to better how to better my team. Really competitive league. Considered offering Saquon, J-Mo in the 205 for Brees, Rashee Rice. You want to plug in his league settings and this trade into the calculator while I'm going through the team.
1 quarterback, 12 team, start 7. Oh my God, this is bare bones.
Yeah, right. And a start 7, that is a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, 1 quarterback. That's like a redraft ESPN league, essentially, is what we're talking about in terms of format. Yeah. He said, I'm also considering trying to offer Saquon for the 102. Anyways, I'll go over his team if you want to fill in that trade.
What was the deal?
It is considered offering Saquon, J-Mo, and the 205 for Brees, Rashee Rice, and maybe Tucker Kraft, is what he said. But anyways, his team is Super Crash Bros? Yeah, Super Crash Bros, which is pretty low on the totem pole in terms of being 9th.
Can you leave the trade up for a second, please?
Yeah.
Jameson and what was it? 205, 2025 mid 2.
Yeah. Arthur, Corey, and I both have a thing for Hispanics. Yes, sir.
Literally spits out exactly fair trade.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, not even joking. If you sort by expert, it's literally right in the middle of the line. If I go by mine, let's see where that lands. If I go by mine, your side wins. If it goes by Corey's, fair trade.
Yeah. Okay. So you must be higher on
Rashee, maybe?
Yeah, probably Rashee.
I have Rashee at 19. You have him at 25. That's the difference.
Okay. Anyways, this is a really shallow league. In a start, like all that matters is your starting lineup, realistically. Also, look how shallow it is relative to the bench sizes as well. Like it looks like this is like a redraft bench. Jalen Hurts in a 1 quarterback league with this low of benches, I'm not even kidding. You probably only need Jalen Hurts on your roster because the waiver wire itself might actually have startable quarterbacks on it because these benches look small.
There's 11 people on your team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, do you need to roster JJ McCarthy? Like, you definitely don't need Russell Wilson. That's for sure.
I kind of see the other teams. Is it just normal for everybody to have like 11 people on their team?
Okay, this guy has a lot more.
So maybe there's 15 roster spots?
It might just be, he might have cleaned out his roster because he's got 3 picks or something like that. But like, these guys have more players on their team. So anyways, regardless.
Yeah, you have picks. You're fine.
Russell Wilson reasonably doesn't even need to be rostered even in this format. JJ McCarthy, Jalen Hurts, you're good there. Saquon Barkley, I do like that trade where you get Brees Hall, you get Tucker Kraft, and you get Rashee Rice. I think that would be a pretty significant upgrade to his team because Saquon more valuable than Brees Hall, but it's not by like a shit ton. And Rashee Rice is a huge, huge upgrade, in my opinion, to Jameson Williams, who we would be sending away. And the 205 for Tucker Kraft is probably a wash, give or take, in terms of value.
Jamo's in your starting lineup right now. You upgrade that to Rashee, and the only thing you have to do is downgrade from Saquon to Brees. In the intermediate, we don't even know what the long.
And you get a tight end upgrade too.
And you get a tight end, yeah, and a mid-second in a fucking start 7.5 PPR 1 quarterback league is worthless.
Yeah, and then at 111, you'd be able to still select, presumably, probably like a Caleb Johnson. Maybe you end up getting a Emeka Egbuka slides to you, or Quinshon Judkins slides to you, or something like that. You could go in the direction of a tight end upgrade as well, for sure.
How far up can 111 plus 205 get you in this league? Because I would be willing to go up knowing how little depth matters.
Well, so if you do the Brees trade, you wouldn't have the 205 anymore. Right. Issue. If you keep Saquon, you would. But if you do the Brees trade, you would not have that.
Cut plus 111?
Yeah. Cut
depth plus does not matter.
Yeah, depth doesn't matter at all. So there's a number of different things you could do with this team. For starters, the goal is to build out as good of a starting lineup as humanly possible. And with Collins, with let's say Brees or Barkley, depending on if you do the deal or not, your RB1 slot's going to be locked down. Your quarterback's already elite. If you get Kraft, you get an upgraded tight end. Metcalf's a very solid wide receiver 2 for you. And then assuming you get Rashee Rice back to full strength, he's going to be a pretty solid flex wide receiver. And then Derrick Henry in the short term is going to be a really good running back for you. So this is a pretty good starting lineup. If you think about it just on paper, if you get Brees, Derrick Henry, Nico, DK Metcalf, Rashee Rice, Tucker Kraft, and Jalen Hurts, that's a really competitive starting lineup.
Can cut plus 111 get you 105?
Maybe. Yeah. And if you can get up to 105 and you can maybe like McMillan maybe slides to you at 105 or something like that, you could be in. I've seen McMillan. I don't know about you, but I've seen McMillan not consistently going 104. Like I've seen Ward go
Yeah.
ahead of him. This is a
I've seen him go
quarterback league,
106,
so
107 in a
yeah,
couple.
I've seen Ward go ahead of him. I've seen Henderson go ahead of him. I actually saw somebody take Ibuka over him, which was pretty surprising to me. So McMillan definitely a guy that would be a good sliding value for you as well.
What league took Ibuka over him?
It was Comedy of Errors, I believe.
Got you. Like an analyst or like a
yeah, somebody. McMillan had slid to 106, I think it was, and someone took Ibuka 106, which I don't think is like an outrageous value of Ibuka, but over McMillan, I thought was surprising.
Yeah, for sure.
Henderson and Ward went ahead of him too.
To your point, by the way, on casuals.
Dude needed running back. Yeah, see, this is my point. Like, Danny's pretending that every casual knows that Justin Jefferson needs a godfather, and I'm telling you that's not the case. Danny, do you remember that I traded Chris Olave and the 111 for Justin Jefferson last year in a league that people follow our content? Like, people don't...
What league?
Bush League.
What?
Yeah, I think I threw in a second as well in 2025, but I gave up the 111 Chris Olave and a second for Justin Jefferson. I guess if you recall, Chris Olave was like a second round redraft pick. So he was, expected to be better than he was last year. But yeah, I got Justin Jefferson for that.
Fucking hell. Dude, I can't even.
You're giving people too much credit that they know what Justin Jefferson is worth on the open market.
I can't even hate because if I go back and literally actually an analyst league and I go back to what Justin Jefferson was traded for, Justin Jefferson at one point was traded away. It's so funny you mentioned this deal. Justin Jefferson was traded away for like Olave, McLaughlin, the 108, and like a 2024 second, whatever that ended up being.
Yeah, dude. In 2023, you remember I traded up with 112 Jameson Williams in a mid-second to get to Bijan in the rookie draft?
Fucking crazy.
Like,
you're just fleecing people. That's what's happening.
Okay, yes, I'm fleecing people, but let's say even that trade was 20% more fair or something. Like it was 107 JMO in like a mid-second or something like that. People don't realize that 3 good assets does not equal an elite asset.
I mean, maybe.
People don't realize it. You'd be surprised. You throw 3 really solid assets at a team that thinks it needs depth, and they'll be willing to tear down and accept.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyways, this team, don't worry about tearing down in this league because you don't need tear downs ever. Like, keep the best assets humanly possible and you'll be on your merry way. But I would definitely rather do, of the 2 deals that you propose here, I would rather do the Breece deal than I would sell Saquon for the 102, just because if you sell Saquon for the 102, you're presumably either taking Travis Hunter and then you're going to be really weak at running back, or you're just swapping Saquon for Amari and Hampton. And I think given that you have Derrick Henry on your roster, it probably makes more sense to hold Saquon in that situation.
Hey, Bush, could you say that they were feeding you like they're feeding the ducks?
They were feeding the ducks. Yes, absolutely. Yes, they were feeding the ducks.
Sorry. I saw the sound effect. I had to make an excuse to play it.
By the way, the Rodecaster that I bought for the quick announcement too, by the way, for those of you guys watching, we have, to my right, I'm pointing at it right now, a in-person recording setup. Now, in the house that I live in, there's a little bit more space than the place I was living in before. Over the last couple of months, I've been collecting some stuff for this in-person setup, and we're going to be able to record a lot more in person because Danny, for those of you guys that don't know, Danny only lives like an hour away from me. So we get a couple show sheets prepped ahead of time. You come over, we pre-record 2 or 3 videos, that kind of thing. We should have a lot more pre-recorded content, especially into like the summer months, but definitely even in the next couple of weeks, we should have some of that stuff ready to go.
Yeah, get gas all written off. Love it.
Yes, absolutely. And if CRA is listening to this, Danny will be traveling a lot. Into where I live. So he's going to have to write off some stuff. But anyways, yeah, we can move on to the next thing here. The next team, we got Arthur, who I believe is in the chat currently. Danny is just messing with his microphone.
I was scratching my neck and my mic fell on me.
There we go. All right. So Arthur is in the chat right now, I believe. Said that last one was a brag team. Or if you guys recall in our last live stream, he sent us an absolute God squad and said he needed help with it. Just did a startup a few months ago, loaded up on 2025 rookie picks with others tanking for 2026. Sold Lamar, Puka, Penix, and 2 seconds. Sold Lamar for Puka, Penix, and 2 seconds. What are your thoughts on that deal? Lamar for Puka, Penix, and 2 seconds.
Not enough.
I think that's probably decent, but I think I might have wanted a little bit more. Like, I think I would have rather done Puka, Penix, and a 1.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't believe in Penix that much.
I like Penix
He's okay.
I think a little bit more than you do, but I'm also not super high on him either.
We both have him like quarterback 21. Like if that
I
was
have him at 20, I think.
okay, let's say that was
Bryce Young.
I mean, Penix and Bryce Young. Like you have Bryce Young.
I have Bryce Young like 5 spots ahead of Penix. So
yeah, you have him too high. I was looking at your.
I'm a Bryce Young.
Bryce Young over Dak is still absurd. Like I was gonna point that out, but like whatever.
In-person fights, yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's think of that range. Like fucking Baker Mayfield.
Oh, that's disrespectful. But yeah, Baker Mayfield ain't in that range for me.
Anyways.
But yes, Baker Mayfield would have made that deal a little bit better. Also, my entire point on bringing up the in-person setup, by the way, was that my Rodecaster that I got has a soundboard on it, and we can actually drop sound effects and shit if we wanted to. Yeah, exactly. We can get little house money sound effect or, that kind of stuff going. But anyways, let's get into Arthur's team here, which is Sage Drake.
Sage Drake. He's number 3.
Number 3.
Love the start already at the top there.
There you go. This is a great, it's so satisfying too, seeing the rookies in here versus not seeing them in here and just like guessing on the picks. So obviously 2 quarterbacks start 10, half tight end premium, 12 team, a little bit deeper than some of the formats we've been talking about so far. Drake May and Michael Penix are your 2 quarterbacks for now. Genty, Caleb Johnson, you just loaded up on this year's running back class and a little bit of last year's running back class. I love this RB core. It's all just young running backs. We'll see what happens. You'll end up with 2 or 3 studs here. I'm pretty confident between all these guys, you'll end up with a couple of good studs. Puka, Travis Hunter, Egbuka, Golden, Higgins, and so on. You're got a really young wide receiver core. Year 1, probably not going to be super, super competitive with these wide receivers, but year 2 and beyond, you're going to be in great shape. And then this also really like the tight end core, the way you've built it out too, with Taylor, with Ingram, with Ferguson and Gadsden. Ingram in the short term can be a good tight end option for you. And then between one of those rookie tight ends, you should have a lockdown top 12 guy when all is said and done there. And then you also have plenty of picks, a couple of extra 2026 seconds, or one extra 2026 second and an extra 2027 second as well. He did say he also has an offer on the table to get Brees for Egbuka in a second in 26. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that deal?
Real quick, by the way, he also mentions that he is higher on Penix. So let's just assume that was like a quarterback 15-ish type of valuation, that deal. You get Puka, you still have Drake May. Like, I think it makes sense. I just,
for me, that would be, everybody has their favorite quarterback in that range. For me, it's Bryce Young. For you,
Doc.
It's probably, I mean, if you're thinking young quarterback, it's probably JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. I mean, or I have Cam Ward probably at the top of like the young portion of that.
Yeah. Like I would personally rather have Bryce Young than Cam Ward myself, but that's I realize I'm on an island with that take. Anyways, Danny's giving me the Dikembe Mutombo bit right here. But anyways, the offer that he has on the table to get Brees for Egbuka in a second, to me, it doesn't it doesn't fit the life cycle of your team. Like if you get Brees, you're immediately hoping now that you can compete because Brees Hall is probably going to have 2 to 3 more really, really prime years ahead of him, and your wide receiver core is going to be in pretty rough shape if you deal away Egbuka.
Also, dude, you're higher on RJ Harvey than I am, but I think Ashton Genty, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Cam Scatterbo, you're perfectly fine at running back. I'm not forcing a move for Brees Hall because, like you also said, Corey, if it's Egbuka in a 2, a year from now, can you picture in your head Egbuka being a round or 2 higher than Brees Hall in the open market?
Because there's a real what if Evans retires after this year? And like not only that,
possibility.
Not only that, but like your whole team, like I'd be shocked if this team was really competitive year 1, just because everybody's a rookie or a second year player. But come year 2, year 3, into the future, these guys could all be in their primes.
So let me take a look right now. Where do I have what's called Brees Hall in relation to who was I going to say? Brees Hall in relation to Egbuka in my ranking. So I have Brees Hall as my sorry, I'm looking. 10th overall running back, 49th overall player. Egbuka is actually ahead of him. Egbuka is, oh my God, am I going to find it? Where's wide receiver 19? 20? Is this not sort of, oh, this is sorted by expert. Yo, I was tweaking. Okay, the experts have Egbuka lower. My apologies. Okay, so if we go to overall here, Brees Hall is currently my, oh my God, I am taking it forever. 42nd overall player. Egbuka is my 48th overall player. So there's a difference of 6 player spots. I just don't think that's worth a second round pick and a 12-team start 10. Apologies for that. I took a while to find that.
Yeah, I have Brees Hall at 47, and I have Egbuka at Egbuka is at 64 for me.
Yeah. Also, I think it's fair to say that you believe in Bryce Young, but saying the quarterback that's going into year 3 without a proven production year over the reroll first overall pick, for me, just from a process standpoint, it has to be Cam.
I think frankly, I think that's all you have though, is that from a process standpoint, you want to reroll. I actually don't think there's any other argument against Bryce Young.
I don't disagree. He looked fine at the end of the year, but let's be realistic. He's going into year 3. If he does not have a productive year this year, he's going to fall off in terms of value.
I don't disagree with you at all.
It's just a risk of asset for me.
Exactly. I think he's a riskier asset, but I think to Scribbles' point, I'm on the same page where I think Bryce Young showed me enough in the second half of the year. He was absolutely a much better prospect than Cam Ward.
At the time, yeah, absolutely.
Still has better, the same draft capital. They invested so much into him. Dave Canales' second year of the system.
I don't think the draft capital for Bryce matters anymore at this point.
No, it doesn't. But given that he's making good on what they spent on him, it does. And it matters in the fact that the Panthers now have all their draft capital back from that original trade as well.
Yeah, no, I like what
they lost the first pick draft last year for it.
Yeah, no, I agree in terms of I like what they're doing over there with the Carolina Panthers. And he does have more going around him than Tennessee does. But let's not act like the fact is, if Bryce Young does not pay off, he is worthless on the market. Even if Cam Ward has a underwhelming rookie season, he is going to hold value because he's a year out of his draft.
You're focusing on what the
value retention
market is.
Yes.
I'm focusing just more on the real football aspect of it because he has a better offensive line, a better coaching staff, better weapons. I think he's a better quarterback. That's what I'm focused on, which to me adds up to the fact that he'll be fine. But there is still the risk that if he looks like shit in week 6 or something like that, they bench him again or whatever the case is.
You're focused more on the micro evaluation. I'm focused more on the macro evaluation on the market. I'm focusing more so on the market trends of both those players and saying, okay, let's just say 50% chance Bryce absolutely smashes, 50% chance he's let down on ADP. I'm also giving that type of valuation to Cam Ward. You're more so saying Bryce Young is more likely to boom than Cam Ward is.
Let me ask you this question. In a hypothetical universe in which Cam Ward and Bryce Young had the exact same season, they're both quarterback 9 in fantasy points per game, which means both of them had great years, essentially. Who's valued higher on the open
Very
market?
easily Cam Ward.
I don't think it's very easily.
Very easily.
I don't think so.
There's a
same
three
age,
draft.
They're born the same year.
3 draft class difference. People are going to look at the age. They're going to look at their years of experience in the NFL, know that Cam Ward had arm talent traits, and they're going to say, well, guess what? If he goes out there and he's quarterback 5 in year 2, which if you're following a progression curve,
in this world, they finish the same exact fantasy.
Yeah. But people are going to say, okay, well, Bryce Young finally hit. Cam Ward is an ascending player. You know that's going to be the mentality of the market.
Maybe, but everyone believed that Bryce Young was the better prospect.
I think the market would easily prefer Cam Ward if they finish back-to-back at quarterback. Did I freeze or did you freeze? All right. Is Bush frozen for you guys or am I frozen for you guys? He does not look happy though. Also, McBride versus Bowers, if you do hear me right now, is an apt comp. Sorry, I'm just getting a little shot of that. Corey looks... Sorry. Corey face. Apologies. I'm sure he'll be right back if... Bush is upset and he's frozen. Sorry. I got to tweet this out. Here, sorry, he's out now, but for those of you that want to take a look here, share screen and sorry. All right, let me go through Bryce over Cam. I just would take Cam personally. Corey frozen. By the way, we'll get back to the team review once Corey is ready. Corey frozen. Bush froze because he was the one sharing his screen. Corey froze. Bush froze. Picking out 111. I have Mark Andrews, Dynasty stand. Should I target the tight ends or running backs and wide receivers? Take whoever falls in terms of best player available. I'd perfectly be fine taking a tight end even with Andrews.
Sorry about that. I don't know why my internet just dropped off the face of the earth. But anyways. last point I was going to make is that they're both probably like
Yeah.
QB 8 to 12 if they both have monster years this year.
I would agree with this. Also, I saw somebody make a good point on it as well. Yeah, even though they're both like not like, oh yeah, number 1 and number 2 at the quarterback market, I think it's going to be a similar thing where McBride and Bowers from a production standpoint were relatively similar, but because Brock Bowers did it as a rookie, whereas McBride did have that 1 year and then second year was okay, but not really up to this year's standard. I think that's kind of how the market's going to view the Bryce versus Cam example.
Yeah, that's a good point. But anyway,
apologies, Arthur. I didn't think Bush would poop out.
Yeah, I crapped my pants on that there. But anyways,
I got a picture of you, by the way.
The only thing I would point to on the last thing on Arthur's team here is that this is the team, very prototypical. Wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole team is young as hell. You know what I mean? Like the whole team is extremely young. So there's no point in really worrying about who's going to be where and that kind of thing, because you're going to know by like week 8 how the team looks production wise.
I was just going to point this out because it does relate to the conversation. I agree the market would overrate rookie seasons to that aspect, but also if we know inherently that's how the market behaves, we should factor it in.
Yeah. We should factor it in. I agree. I just think it's pretty much all you got, and I got like 5 points on the Bryce side.
I mean, all the point that matters is the market.
I disagree. His production and actual like market doesn't mean anything. Like look at Kyle Pitts. He was market tight end 1 for years.
You could have sold him at tight end 1.
Yeah, it mattered. You could have sold him or whatever, but ultimately it doesn't matter in the future.
So you would rather hold the more volatile asset, knowing inherently that the one that you don't believe in has the value accrual that yours simply doesn't.
No, I disagree. I still think he has the same value accrual potential as Cam Ward because he was the better prospect.
Disagree.
The thing that I'm pointing to is that it is one factor, how volatile.
The most important factor, by the way.
It is, but if he had, it's not. If it would be,
that's all really that matters.
It would be the most important factor, in my opinion, if the actual football side of things was sketchy for Bryce Young, which it just got marketably better in the last calendar year.
Sure, but you have to accept the fact that the range of outcomes for Bryce is tighter in that aspect of his ceiling, and he has way more value to lose if he doesn't have a great season.
Sure, but I could also tell you the exact same is true for Cam Ward because he was a significantly worse prospect, and if he has a bad rookie season, people are not going to be as forgiving as they were for Bryce Young.
I think that's based on our own evaluation. I think a lot of people out there were higher on Cam Ward than our evaluation was. So I think you're discrediting that.
Maybe.
Either way, let's go back to Arthur's review.
Let's get into the next.
He's got Pennick. No, we didn't finish Arthur.
I just wrapped it up when you were reading comments.
What?
I said it was the prototypical wait and see. The team is very young still. There's nothing really to panic about. I'll go back if you have anything else to add, but I thought we were pretty much wrapped it up. We went for like 4 or 5 minutes before we even got derailed.
Okay, sorry. That kind of threw me off in terms of timing.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much. You have the fulcrum to be able to, like you said, don't do the Brees deal because I think you have the RB core to be able to compete, and you have the wide receiver depth. Just like you said, you took your 2 dart throws at tight end up top instead of taking the Loveland or the Warner archetype. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Bad news deck here. We got. Let me pull up the question. I think he might have sent in a question after the fact in the chat here. Okay, he did. So I'll pull this up after. I'm wondering how competitive is this team? What other weaknesses besides my running back room am I not seeing? And then he said, what would I use my picks on this draft? Any other advice for this team going forward? I've been a mother flocker for a year now. Keep up the great work. 2 championships with FSE. Love to see it. So roaming speed achieved, which is hilarious.
Ramming speed. Yeah.
Oh, ramming speed. I see roaming because I was fucking traveling during March. And roaming is stuck into my head. Also appreciate you, Mason. He said, congrats on 60K. Appreciate all of you guys.
Appreciate you, Mason. Also, when you get the chance, comment down below Ward versus Bryce in the chat.
Yes, of course. Ramming speed achieved, not roaming, because we hate phone companies.
Amen.
Josh Allen, Drake May, Brock Purdy, very solid quarterback there. Running back wise, it's Bijan versus the world. Wide receiver, you got St. Brown, Puka Nacua, and then not a whole lot of depth there. And then Sam Laporta. Looks like you're very in on the the Lions to some degree. And then 203, 212, and 303. I mean, pretty clear depth as the lacking factor here in terms of the wide receiver production, running back production. Outside of your first 3 dudes, you're pretty far behind outside of that. Like your next best player is like Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, realistically, in a start 9, 12 PPR, like you still need a couple more depth pieces than what you currently have. But at the same time, it's like when you're built around Allen, May, Bijan, Amonra, Puka Nacua, Sam Laporta, I mean, you're just doing the math there. That is 6 of your lineup spots already taken care of. And the other 3 would be spent between, like you said. Hopefully you get a better option than Michael Pittman. Maybe he takes one spot. Maybe a Jalen Warren type if you can supplement that in the long term. Otherwise, I mean, in year 1, I don't think Jalen Warren's necessarily a terrible flex projection, but you would want somebody better, I would say. Like even if it was like a David Montgomery type.
Yeah, for sure. He said also, he said, I'm wondering about the trade for Bijan and Amon-Ra St. Brown if you have access to it. Okay, he didn't.
By the way, Mason, looks like we're on an island because a lot of people, including Corey, are saying Bryce.
Yeah, ball knowers.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Mason.
Anyways, he said Bijan and Amon-Ra St. Brown for his 2025 through 2027 first, Ray Davis, JSN, and TJ Hawkinson.
Why? You're no number one value team.
Yeah, I mean,
just makes no sense.
Ray Davis is useless. JSN, TJ Hawkinson, it's not going to really do you much help.
You don't need any of those trash cans, to be honest.
Yeah, like you're in an enviable position for the most part where, yeah, you need depth, but depth is the easiest part to get on a roster. Like it's harder to get St. Brown, Nacua, Bijan, Josh Allen, and Drake May.
I'll tell you what, depth isn't breaking down your greens. You don't break down your greens here. Keep your greens.
Yeah, keep your greens. Everybody needs to eat their veggies, and that's what you're doing here with all these with these green players on your roster. One thing I wouldn't be opposed to. I wouldn't be opposed to this. Speaking on our conversation about what the market thinks, which is what is actually going to happen, because Drake May does fit that category of, if Drake May, let's say, I don't think this is going to happen, but Drake May, let's say, never became an elite fantasy quarterback. There would be a point in time where we would look back and be like, hey, maybe we should have been selling high on Drake May after his rookie season for QB 5 to 8 price tags. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but given that he is the most volatile asset on your top end of talent, you could tier down from Drake May and collect wide receiver and running back help if you're getting a king's ransom. If somebody's going to give you, I'm trying to think of a quarterback that would be in that range. Dak Prescott plus a really solid running back and a really solid wide receiver plus some pick capital. Why not float out offers for that? Would be my only point.
I'm not trading Drake May.
We know you love Drake May.
I'm not trading Drake May.
I'm just saying in a hypothetical world in which Drake May doesn't work out, that trade would age very, very well. So depending on your thoughts and stances on what you have in Drake May, you could tier down from him to get wide receiver and running back help. I'm talking real wide receiver and running back help, by the way, not like Isaiah Pacheco and like Jaden Reed or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, or you can keep Drake May.
Yeah, I mean, Danny's doing tricks on Drake May these days, so it's hard to talk Danny into Drake May. If I was talking about Baker Mayfield right now, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'd sell him for fucking nothing." But Drake May, Danny is glazing hard, so it's very difficult to get him to think rationally about Drake May.
I'm keeping him. Look at him. Look at him. He's a franchise. That's the franchise quarterback right there.
Danny is deep. It's deep in there. Anyways, here's the thought. 203, 212, 303. Are you spending those picks just out of curiosity? Because he doesn't have his 26-1. So one thing you could do is trade those picks for veterans.
Yeah, trade them for veterans if you can.
Get, let's say 203 gets you Joe Mixon or something like that.
Let's take a look at the rebuilding team with some vets.
Okay, so this guy... his team is just certified garbage. He has Mike Evans. This guy, you could maybe try and get Mike Evans off of him.
What, the 209?
I don't think you'll get Mike Evans for that.
Or sorry, it's the
212 and 303. Like, I mean,
sure.
So I will say there's plenty of teams every year that like tear it down and they're like, I'll sell anybody for anything. Like, Danny, I sent you this trade in one of the leagues that I was in. I got Dak Prescott for Anthony Richardson, a late second and an early third. Like there's teams who are so desperate to get off of the competitive assets that they will give them away. So teams like, some of these, this Stephon Diggs guy, for example, maybe the 211 or whatever pick that was gets you relatively close to Stephon Diggs, who can be a competitive wide receiver piece for you or whatever. The only reason I say this, I'm not usually in the business of like selling, pick capital and going all in, but your team is one or two really good starters away from being a monster from a production standpoint in season. And you also don't have your pick in 2026 as well. So you're kind of all in already.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable show. Realistically, with this team, you have, like we said, 6 of the 9 spots already with green players. In terms of that deal specifically, you don't need to get rid of one of those green players.
No, don't. I would say, like, let's say best case scenario, 203, 2012, 303 are off of your roster. And maybe you even get rid of your 26-2. And you end up with, let's say, Mike Evans, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara out of it. Would you feel good about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'd feel pretty good about your starting roster at that point.
For sure. You just got to promise me one thing. Okay?
Don't sell Drake May.
You can't sell this guy. He's got the Terminator look in his eyes. He's ready. That is game day Drake May.
Frat bro on planet Earth, but all right.
Game day Drake May, baby. Let's go.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, but James does have a question here that we should probably answer. Reviews are a sliding scale of how much they are. I believe they are $55 if you are a site subscriber using promo code FSE. And you also actually get a 15% discount on the other creators if you're using our promo code. And then vice versa, you'd be like $60-something if you were subscribed to Domain or to Flock or to Land and you bought one from us. And then I believe they are a full $79, give or take, if you are not a site subscriber. If Mason's still in here, he can probably correct me on that.
Correct. And also, you will get one for free if you sign up annually as a Mother Flocker with code FSE.
Right. So it's essentially a $79 value, and it's just under $100 to sign up for an annual sub. You'll get all of our rankings, draft guides, all that stuff, and all the other creators on the sites, rankings and draft guides and stuff. And you get that free team review and buy sell hold report voucher, and buy sell hold reports are like $50 too. So that's definitely worth the best bang for your buck is just to sign up annually for sure.
Appreciate the kind words as well. I just want to point this out. I have T-Mac basically in the same tier, or not in the same tier. He's technically a tier behind, but he is right behind London already for me. Draft day having a ball. Let's go, brother. Let's go. Yeah, he already shared me, by the way. He had a league where he had 101, 102 plus. That's not Bush League, right?
Yes. Yeah. He sold a lot of players off in Bush League. And
we got Leatherhead here as well. Let's get it. We're about to hop onto your team, brother.
All right, let's do it. Just completed his first startup draft. Quick shout out. Also, by the way, if you guys want to see a video, I was going to do a solo video on this weekend. I'll probably do it in the next couple of days. Everything for new Dynasty players, how to start a league, who to get in a league with, how to use League Safe, I think is a popular thing that nobody knows how to use, including Danny and myself at times. I think I'm going to make a video basically like first time Dynasty players manifesto, essentially, where people can kind of look at that video and go, okay, this is how you collect buy-ins. This is how you set up the leagues. This is how you, etc. And I'll probably
something I should watch.
Yeah, Danny should definitely watch it in terms of League Safe. And by the way, Danny, you need to answer people in Flocked Up because they have no fucking clue how to pay in for future years or when the draft is starting.
Has there been discussion in the league?
Yeah, I said you need to ask Danny that when someone said, when is this draft starting?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So we got flat paid in for the other League Safe. Now I'm going to be collecting it in the next one.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And it's just because we had paid 2 years up front, but because I had checked in for flat last year, I had only done the 1 year. So he just made sure he caught up on that. And now I'll send the new League Safe today. That's my apologies. There's been a lot going on. I'm in a million rookie drafts at once right now, so I get it.
But I'd also make sure, I think that league didn't have 26 and 27 set up, which is something I'll cover in all those videos.
So the first 2 years were set up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But I like to get in the habit of just having 26 and 27 set up already so that people can buy into it. And there's probably people in our league who have traded those picks and haven't paid in for it.
Yeah. I'll make both those League Safes and League Safe actually responded to me. That's what happened. I was waiting on them to respond for that.
Right. Yeah. Because you had to switch the format. And again, we will cover all that in the video. Anyways, Leatherhead Craftsman's team completed his first startup draft. Guys drafted a lot of players in weird spots. That'll probably happen if you're playing with a lot of new Dynasty players. He said, I offered my 2025 first and second to get the 2025 102. Would like to gain an early 2025 second. Excited to hear what you gents have to say. And he said first time doing Dynasty. Okay. Generally speaking, if you're a first time Dynasty player, I would be careful about trading away rookie picks. That would be the only thing I would say right off the top. But let's look at the team and how things kind of shook out for you. So you have Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence in a 2 quarterback league, and Justin Fields, Daniel Jones.
Good core.
Running back core, a little bit shallow, but you have JT and Kamara there. Marvin Harrison, Rashee Rice, Pittman, Devontae Adams, Diggs, and so on and so forth. Again, this is a pretty decent team for a team right out of a startup because, nobody's going to be really crazy ahead. I guess AR5 enjoyer ended up, coming out with a couple of good assets at the top.
I'm assuming in this league what happened is the startup draft order and the rookie draft order were inverse because I'm seeing everybody has 110, 210, 310, 410, 101, 201, 301, 401. I will say if you guys are starting a new startup upcoming, this is probably the most unbalanced way to do it. Because
and I will cover that in the video, by the way, because people sometimes might think, oh, if you have the first pick in the startup draft, you should have the last pick in the rookie draft. And if that's the case, the way to take advantage of it is to take the last pick in the startup draft because then you get Genty with the 101, who's essentially going in the exact spot of the last pick in the startup draft, the 1-2 turn area. So if you are new Dynasty players and you guys didn't know this, obviously it's no harm, no foul. But just so you know, having Josh Allen is less of an advantage when you don't get a high rookie pick as a result of it.
I mean, it works out when he somehow falls to you at 103. I don't know how he fell 103. I'm assuming probably Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson went 1 and 2, which again, fine picks in their own right. For me, Josh Allen is still the clear 101 in startups, hence his ranking right there. So, like for example, if you go down, let's just look at the guy who probably picked like 106 in the startup.
I guess he'll probably
have like the 107
picks, huh?
Yeah, probably. You'd have the 107, I would assume, unless he traded it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So right here. So this guy probably got Hurts at 6 in the startup and got stuck with the 107 pick. If you go up to the guy at the top here, I'm assuming he had the 1-2 turn, probably got Drake May plus Malik Neighbors there.
Or he got Neighbors and Thomas at the turn, potentially.
Potentially too, and then still got the 101, which is another top 15. If you think about it like this, the 101 is going to be a top 15 to 17 asset in a lot of startups. The 112 is 6th or 7th round startup asset.
Yeah. It's a major, this guy is probably not his first time playing Dynasty. Maybe it is, and he just didn't know or whatever. But this guy is going to have a much bigger advantage as opposed to you, who probably picked Josh Allen first or second. Or it looks like third is where you picked him because 110 is the pick you ended up with.
Which, considering the circumstances, you still ended up with a really good team. Just more so, if you look at the chart right here.
Yeah, he did mention that it is 100% reverse order here. He said, if I do a Dynasty again, we will pick rookie picks in the startup. Yeah, it's definitely what you should be doing.
Just to get a visual of it, though, if you go to the top there, obviously the Drake May value also adds a ton of value with him. The fact that he got him at the 501. But if you go up, so you see 13,940 is the bottom team. Go up to the top there. You see a 24,127. You're legitimately talking about almost double the team value out of the startup. Which is rare. That happens because of the startup draft and the rookie draft being inverse.
Yeah, I'm curious where this guy ended up picking. It looks like he picked around, the one he picked early, 105, I guess that would have been probably in the actual startup, and then he gets stuck with the 108. So yeah, for those of you guys that are new Dynasty players, you definitely don't want to set it up this way. You probably want to set it up so that there's rookie picks inside the startup. But if you're a new Dynasty player, maybe you set it up in a way that you do the veterans first and then you do a rookie draft or something. Like you got to figure out a way to set it up. The best way to do it is to draft the rookie picks in the startup. That's the best way to do it because then it's fair and anybody can take the rookie picks where they want to take them.
Yep. Also, I believe this is his brother because it says I'm the top guy in his league. May fell to me at the 5th round. Neighbors A champ. Yeah, that is very, very good. If you do select the live review, by the way, we'll just get to it in the file for today. Yep.
Yeah. Just so you know, live review, I believe, is a domain product. Ours doesn't say live review.
Yeah, ours doesn't say live review.
Dynasty Decisions episode. So if you select live review, that would be a domain review. Make sure it is Fantasy Stock Exchange. That would be us. Obviously, get as many reviews as you want if you want one from them too. But we obviously would appreciate you get it from us if you're on our live stream right now.
Yeah, full transparency. If you click a domain review, it will not be covered on a stock exchange stream. I'll tell you that.
For sure. Anyways, let's get back to the team here. Generally speaking, I think you came out pretty solid here. The one thing I would say is that you are a little bit, there's a couple picks here that don't align with the regular rest of your team. The one being Marvin Harrison Jr. Like if you were going to take, like you went through your startup, you went Allen, Marvin Harrison, probably with like your first 2 picks, presumably. And then after that, you kind of went more of a competitive win now spirit. But aside from that, I think you came out pretty solid in terms of player value and the players that you actually selected. I don't have too many gripes with that. I am wondering where like your mid-round picks went. Because I
Yeah,
see
I'm
like
assuming Pittman, Adams, Diggs, guys like that probably went in the mid single digit
they
round.
went a little earlier than they
Yeah,
probably would have been
Kamara,
for you and I. Like those type of guys don't go till like the 9th, 10th round probably in leagues that
which
we're in versus
Which he already explained, like contextualized that this is like more of a newbie league, probably a lot more casual picks. I mean, he just mentioned that Chase went 101, for example, over Josh Allen in a super flex. You just don't really see that in more seasoned leagues, which again, it's fine. It's your first dynasty league. I'm assuming it's probably the first dynasty league for a lot of the people in this league. We already mentioned, of course, the startup versus the rookie draft note for the future startups you get into. But for the most part, like you said, you're probably going to see a lot more veterans pushed up higher, which is inherently going to happen when people maybe panic. They say, oh my God, like Kyron Williams just went off the board in the second. Like, when do I have to start taking production? Like, it's just going to happen inherently with human behavior.
Yeah, and if your league mates were dead set on doing it in reverse order, they should have done what Danny said here, which is at least snake the rookie draft so that 112 would get 201. But even then, it's still not fair. But yeah, and if your league mates were dead set on doing it that way, you should have made it so that you got the 112 in the startup.
That would have
like
been nice.
Traded, it'd been like, hey, do you want the 101? I'll take the 112 in the startup or whatever. But anyways, the team itself. He's mainly asking, he sent a question here. He gave all the scoring format. There's a lot of bonuses for like big catches and big plays and,
similar to our setup
stuff. What's up?
Like relatively similar to our setup in that regard?
Yes. Yeah. It looks like everything is pretty similar to what we usually run, minus the fact that it's half PPR instead of regular PPR. And he said he has a couple trades on the table. He said, I'm looking at my 2025 110 and 26 first for the 102, which is what he said in the original thing. So he'd be trading up with his own first in the 110 to get up to 102, presumably to select Travis Hunter. But I think given that he's a new dynasty player, he might be eyeing Omari and Hampton with that selection would be my guess. And then he also has a Kamara trade. But what are your thoughts on that one originally?
If it only costs 110 plus 2026 1 to go up and get 102, I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly comfortable saying, since this is the first year of the startup, this is a very competitive team year one. I feel comfortable projecting you to be a top 4 level team in your league. So if you're inherently looking at the 2026 pick value, you're probably looking at somewhere in the range of the 108 to the 112. If you ask me right now, 2025 110 plus 2026 108 to 112 area, I'm easily taking the 102. Whether that Travis Hunter, whether that
it's half PPR. Maybe he wants to take Omari and Hampton there.
If you really wanted Omari and Hampton, like I can sign off because it's a half PPR. I still would take Hunter, knowing the fact that your wide receiver 3 is Pittman. And realistically, if you need to trade for a running back in season, I'd be more comfortable trading like a 2 for an Aaron Jones type, hypothetically, if I know I'm really competing.
Yeah, and it also it looks like it's like a tiered big play bonus, almost like 10 to 19 yards. You get a bonus for yardage, 20 to 20. And it looks like it's mainly receiving stuff. It looks like it's mainly receiving bonuses. So like that would also maybe push you back in the direction of taking Travis Hunter if that were the case. And then he also has, I traded it my 7th, I think, and gained a 9th and 11th round pick. Okay. He also mentioned Kamara for 203, Taylor and Daniel Jones for 205 for 2025 108 and 208. So those are 2 separate trades. So would you trade the Kamara for the 203 in this situation? I probably wouldn't, given that you're kind of a competitive team.
Maybe. However, can I come back with the fact that the 203 in a casual league might be like Luther Burden?
Yeah, you could talk me into it for
RJ Harvey even.
Once you make that trade, you're probably at a point now where you have to
more house money.
You have to like probably sell off all of your competitive assets reasonably.
I wouldn't necessarily.
You're probably going to sell Adams and Diggs off though.
Maybe, yeah. Say you get Luther Burden, you want to sell Adams Diggs for comparable running back talent. I wouldn't be opposed to that though.
For what it's worth, if it's your first dynasty league and it's everybody's first dynasty league, going punt out of the startup and going with young team is going to work out really well for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody's going to overvalue. You're going to get more value than me and Danny would for Kamara. Easily. You're going to get more value for Adams and Diggs than me and Danny would in most of our leagues because people don't value assets like that in the leagues that we play with. And then the other trade was Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones for the 108 and the 208.
That is, for what it's worth, by the way, for this being a casual dynasty league, pretty aligned trade values. Like sometimes you'll hear like, oh yeah, 108 plus a 2026 first. It's like, okay, 108, 208. I actually have to like think a little bit when I
Yeah,
do
no,
it.
I would say, given the trades that you've proposed so far,
I'd
I
probably
would
do
say
it though.
even if it's most people's first dynasty leagues, I would say it's not like what I've
Yeah.
seen way worse in
Yeah.
first people's dynasty leagues. I've seen guys like a Devontae Adams go for 2 1s in
Yeah.
casual dynasty
No,
leagues.
like those are very respectable valuations for a first dynasty league. With that being said, though, I would take the 108 and the 208 over JT and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I'd probably value more so as a third round type of asset at this point. Maybe he takes over AR. I still think that's probably an unlikelihood at this point. And the 108, I basically have aligned with JT's value anyways, because my 107, or sorry, literally my 108 would be Quinshon Judkins, who I have ranked over JT.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, other than that, like working the trade market and seeing if you can get younger would be a wise decision. But given that these trade values are pretty decent, it might actually not work out that well for you. I would say, like, just as a general, like, canned advice, usually when people who are in their first dynasty leagues come and ask us for advice, we usually say, like, try and get younger, maybe 1 year punt it, because you can usually build monsters that way in casual dynasty leagues. But given these trade values, like, I mean, they actually appear to be pretty decent in terms of what you're looking at there. As far as your rookie class, like 110, 210, 310, if you do end up making that trade and going up for 102, I think that's a really sharp move to make. But if you do end up sitting at 110, you could definitely go in the direction of one of the wide receivers. You could grab Caleb Johnson. You could, like, if Igbuka, Quinshon Judkins, like, there's a good chance that the rookie draft will go a little bid off the board in terms of ADP, because not really anybody knows what regular ADP is too. So I think you probably have a good chance of getting like an Igbuka or a Judkins at 110.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that if you want to make that move. But like I said, if the 110 offer to get the 202s on the table, I personally am perfectly fine stomaching that for Hunter or Omar and Hampton. Personally, would be for Hunter, because then, like me and Corey were talking about, if Pittman, Adams, Diggs are on the open market, even though these are very sharp trade offers, at the same time, like you said, the startup order maybe have been a little bit skewed. Maybe they would have more attention than one of our leagues. So yeah. Either way, though, for this being your first startup, I think you did a really good job.
Absolutely. Yeah. We do need to keep it moving because I do have a hard out in about 20-ish minutes. So we should get through the rest of these teams before we go. But I think you did a good job so far in your first startup. Let's move on to Big Dog. What is this? Big Dog Simmer. Big Dog Simmer.
Big Dog Simmer.
Danny, you're going to like the squad. He said, my team is a house money team. It's a very active.
Look at the value.
That's insane. This is a flex league. We don't need to spend too much time on this one. This team's dominant. No one will trade with me without a massive overpay. Get used to it. I've never been one to pass on value and love Hunter, Omar, Igbuka, and Judd. Is that who you ended up with in the rookie draft? Holy crap. I'm not sure where to go as I'm in a championship window now. Well, the place where to go is to win. Insane team. You got Danny's. I mean, you got Burrow's my guy at quarterback. Danny's constantly disrespecting
my two guys.
But you got his two guys as the other two quarterbacks. Achane, Saquon's pretty much all you need, but Hubbard's a very good option too. Chase, Neighbors, Lamb. Again, this team's ridiculous. 102, he mentioned he got, what does he say? Hunter. Said love Omar, Hunter, Igbuka, and Judd. Okay, so he hasn't had his draft yet. So I mean, Hunter's probably the direction you're going with that wide receiver at 102.
Yeah, I mean, just enjoy. Honestly, if you want to trade back up 106 plus to go get Omar as well, go fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if it costs you 106 plus your 26-1 to go get 103 Hampton, would you do it?
Yeah.
I'd probably do it. And it might not even cost you that. But like you said, a massive overpay. Like there's going to be teams that, like, let's scroll down here. Is there?
He said he would have to massively overpay.
Yeah, but like. Can you send the one? Like I would send the 106 straight for Breece Hall from this guy. He might be looking for draft capital given the state of his team.
I mean, I have Judkins in the same tier, and I have Henderson over Hall, so I'd probably just.
You have Henderson over Hall?
Yeah.
Oh, easily. I don't.
Easily
also,
because
liberal tiers is hilarious. That's a funny name.
Too bad that's not the case in Canada.
No, it is not the case in Canada. Bucky Irving would be an interesting, like you go after him on this guy's team. He doesn't have any draft capital, kind of a crappy team. So you could maybe go after that. This titty boy, this league's on him.
If you want to go trade up for any of those fucking picks that titty boy had, dude, you want to go make a grandfather for Genty, go have fun.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I don't know how casual your league is, but like if you even have the inkling that Hunter might be falling to 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, what you could do is trade up from 1-2 to get Genty, and then maybe trade up from 1-6 to get Hunter potentially. If you have an inkling that Hunter might not go 1-2.
You know what my best advice for a team like this is?
What's that?
Have some fun and get creative.
Yeah, you can be very creative with teams like this, man, because realistically, here's why you can be creative. Because realistically, your absolute worst case scenario is that you walk out of this rookie draft with Hunter, Henderson, and Tootin at 208, and your team is just chalked to the gills with talent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no matter what you do, your team's going to be chalked to the gills with talent. But the fact of the matter is, it's a 10-team start 9 where there's 90 relevant players in this league format. Guess what? There's 90 relevant players, and you have 7 of them like at the top. You have 7 of the top, 15 startup picks?
Yeah. And Taylor must be new around here, says, what website is this chat? This is flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE to sign up. For what it's worth, this My Teams feature is free. So you don't have to pay for anything to use the My Teams feature. The only thing you'd have to pay for is in the settings bar here. Actually, I'm in streamer mode, so you can't see it. But there will be on the My Teams page a settings bar that can have you sort by my rankings, by Danny's rankings, by Mason's rankings, any of the creators on the site. That is a paid feature. But you can just use the My Teams feature and get the expert consensus for free if you're interested in that. And
also, James said he submitted. Be kind, it's the worst team we'll ever see. We've seen quite a few piss.
He said his rookie draft is tomorrow. So again, we kindly, after James submitted his team, kindly, if you guys don't mind refraining from submitting more, just because I do have a
hard
he's
got like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. But yes, we will get to anybody who has submitted while we've been live here. But any other thoughts on this team? Because this is realistically a team that we can kind of simmer through, because it's an awesome team.
Yeah, like no bullshit. Like I said, there's 90 relevant players in this league. You have 7 of the top 15 of them. Like your team, no matter what you do, you have to find 2 other starters. Guess what? You know who those 2 other starters are? Saquon Barkley and Devon Achane, who are also top 30 assets. So you do the math there. 9 of the top 30 assets of your are on your team. 7 of the top 15 are.
Yeah, insanely good roster. We can move on to the next team. Unfortunately, when you have a team this good, you get less time to cover it. YVLabrum in a league of ours, but this is not the league that he is in with us. Last season, he went on a bit of a losing streak to start and decided to commit to the tank, traded away Gibbs for Devontae, Brooks, and a 27 second. So Jonathan Brooks, I'm assuming, Devontae Smith, and a 27 second. I think that's a little light. I think I would have wanted a 1 on top of Devontae and Brooks for sure.
With hindsight, it's tough because Brooks probably was like a 1-2 turn valuation at the time, and Devontae probably had a little bit more market value, and Gibbs didn't have quite the year as he did this year. So like, I understand the rationale at the time. It's just, it sucks the way it's materialized in the last calendar year for you.
Yep. Then he traded Higgins and a 3rd for JSN in a 2nd. I think that was a good move. JSN's obviously more valuable than Higgins in a vacuum. Plus, you got the better pick. And then May 2nd, he traded 101 for DK, 107, 207, and a 26, 1 and 2. So, I mean, if you're tearing it down, you get 107, DK Metcalf, 207, and a 1 and 2 for Genty. I think that's a pretty solid return. I would probably be now shopping Metcalf because you probably don't really want a 27-year-old wide receiver on a rebuild. But at the same time, I think that's a pretty solid return. Because if you can net, let's say, a mid to late 1st for DK, maybe even a little bit more, then you suddenly got 3 1s and 2 2s for Genty.
Yeah, if you can get a 1 and 2 for DK, then you're plotting it out. 107, 207, 2 1s and 2 2s, like that's solid. Even if it's only a 2027 1 and 2 you can get for DK, I think from a competitive team you might be able to swing that over. And if you do that, like you said, you're setting yourself up for success. Although when I look at the roster, I mean, would you have potentially even kept Genty knowing that he has a ton of depth already?
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at this team, like I love the picks that you
need needle movers
up here. But like, dude, in a start 10 half PPR, Genty would have gone a long way for this team because you
for sure
in a start 10 2 quarterback, you'd be starting Stroud and Herbert, Genty, Bucky Irving, probably Chase Brown in one of your flexes.
Yeah,
Todd McConkey, JSN, Devontae Smith, and Dalton Kincaid, and then maybe rotating in Rome Odunze or Calvin Ridley or whoever else because you wouldn't have Metcalf on this team, obviously, if you don't make that trade. I don't know, dude. I might have kept Genty with this team.
I think I would have. However, you did make the move. Let's just say 107. It's Henderson or Judkins there filling out that RB. We'll say 2 slot behind Bucky Irving in your team. Although Henderson and him are very back-to-back for me at this point. Let's say at the 201, we're hoping for a Loveland or a Warren. But realistically, it's whoever falls within that tier. You want to take a Burden? That's fine. You want to take a Caleb Johnson? That's fine. Regardless, though, 201, you're going to go best player available. 204, 207, maybe a 204 is when you look at a Jaden Higgins or a Bashal Tootin. Now, the question for me is, let's just say 107 ended up being one of the running backs. 201, maybe the tight ends go and you take a wide receiver that fell, let's say a Matthew Golden. The 204, are you more likely to take a Bashal Tootin, knowing that if you take Golden, you have 6 relevant receivers here? Or do you think, hey, Higgins is a tier above or Boot Tootin? I can't really do that.
You know what I would actually be inclined to do with this team is I would be inclined to trade up from 204 and secure Dart as my quarterback 3.
Yeah,
I think that because you don't have a quarterback 3 right now. And Dart, I've seen Dart go 204, first of all. Like in our No Flocking League, I believe he went 205.
So let me ask you this. Maybe it's 204 plus 2026 third. You can move up to 202. You doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I would give up one of your 2s in 26 to do it.
Ooh,
secure it to secure a quarterback 3. I think that's an important asset to secure, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I might be a little rich for my blood, but
maybe you get a 3 back on top of Dart or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. But
he has overall, a draft plan listed here that I can go through really quick. He said,
yep.
So basically, the guy that he traded Genty to is a Raiders fan from Idaho. So you'd imagine he's probably very, very pro Genty as a Boise State football fan and a Las Vegas Raiders fan. Yep. If that was the case, you probably should have gotten more from him, to be honest.
Instead of DK, so go up to the guy who has the 101. Instead of DK, what could you have gotten? Obviously, this is very much hindsight. You already made the move, but I am curious.
This Amon Drugs guy, I mean, I would have shot for Garrett Wilson probably. And
at minimum, yeah. Garrett Wilson.
Minimum, I would have shot for Garrett Wilson 2 1s and 2 2s or whatever you ended up getting. Was Metcalf 2 1s and 2 2s? Is that what it was?
It was Metcalf 107, a second, and 2 1s and 2 2s, I think.
Hold on. Metcalf
107, 207, 1 and 2, 1.
Yeah,
and 2.
I would have wanted Wilson. Like if he was a Boise State fan from who's a Raiders fan too. Like I think you could have gotten more from this guy.
You could have juiced it a little bit more. Pause.
Yeah, but either way, again, I think given if you would have gotten more, if you would have kept Genty, it's what's done is done. The team is in a really good situation right now. And even if you walk out, again, worst case scenario, you walk out of this draft, he said he wants Henderson or Judkins bad with that 107. I think that's fine.
I will say though,
204, 207, you walk away with Golden, Jackson Dart or Jaden Higgins or something, or Luther Burden at 204. And at 207, you walk away with Tootin. This team's going to be in good shape.
I will say they'll go back to that. I believe Amon Drugs is this team.
Yeah.
No. So he's got he's got a good enough team to the point where I can't really project those picks anything lower than mid.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting a huge value return on those picks, which is probably not the greatest considering next year's class isn't like excellent. The other thing I would maybe suggest too is 201. If one of the tight ends falls, you probably got to take one. Even in a non-tight end premium, you probably got to take one with 201.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Even though it's a half PPR, realistically, you just need something to suffice a tight end. Quite frankly, I mean, Dalton Kincaid, you have him at 12 because I do not have him at 12.
It's not because I like Dalton Kincaid. I can assure you of that. It's because there's not that many better tight ends.
I think there's at least 3 tight ends I would take over him. Specifically,
I'm assuming you have Jake Ferguson, Evan Ingram, and Kelsey or something ahead of him?
Not Evan Ingram or Kelsey. I have Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson ahead of him.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so my thought process is this on Dalton Kincaid versus those guys. Quick tangent, then we'll get back to everything we need to do here. Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson are like streamer caliber prospects. If they were better prospects, I would be able to get there. I like the capital. I like the landing spot. But Dalton Kincaid is realistically in a better spot than them. And I know he might not be that good. Like we're very aware of this, of Dalton Kincaid.
So Dalton Kincaid is older than me.
He is. Yeah. He's a little bit older, but he has 2 to 3 years. He has 2 years in the league now. Maybe this is the year he turns the corner. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. It's probably like a 20% chance he's a top 5 tight end in fantasy at any point in his career. But I still think the ceiling exists to the point that I have to respect it a little bit.
I'm not respecting anything. You want to know what my counter is?
What?
He's urine. The other 2 may not be urine.
That's true. Yeah. If you want to just say outright that Kincaid sucks, I won't argue with you, to be honest. Like, I just think it on the off chance he doesn't suck, he would instantly
on the sliver of chance on the sliver of chance he's maybe not ass crease. This is
my thought on it. I like not saying he's great on Dalton Kincaid, but we can pump the brakes a little bit. That's my point on it too.
He sucks, and those 2 rookies land in spots with the Jets and with the Rams where they have opportunity to get starting roles. And guess what? If it's a rookie tight end, it doesn't take a lot to outproduce what Dalton Kincaid's been. Dalton Kincaid's been ass.
My thought is this, because first of all, Pitts is my tight end 11 still, which feels disgusting. But Pitts and Kincaid being 11 and 12 for me is nothing sheerly other than the fact that if they aren't terrible at football, they would instantly be top 5 tight ends.
Jets are terrible, but guess what? Dalton Kincaid sucks.
Dawson Knox
might be better than Dawson.
There's nothing I can fight back on.
Like that's my point on it. Like if you want to take Kincaid because you don't believe he sucks, go nuts, Joe Mixon. But also another guy that's kind of mid is Joe Mixon. Sorry.
I mean, Joe Mixon's been burning us for like 4 years, so maybe we should stop talking shit about him. But anyways, this team is in pretty good shape. You're going to be able to spend those picks and continue to fill it out. Obviously, you're not in a position where you have like a ton of superstar talent. Maybe getting a tight end at 201 would really help you with that, because if you hit big on a Loveland or a Warren, that would give you some superstar talent at the tight end position. But regardless, you're in pretty good shape there. We can go on to VB Davis, and then this is one of those teams where we don't actually get the screenshot. So it looks like an MFL team. We might have to do this. If you are watching this, VB Davis, we'll have to do this offline for you, because with MFL, this is just impossible to read to people.
Harder to sort out on stream for sure.
Yeah. So we'll get this to you later on, VB Davis. Apologies if you were waiting this entire time for us to break down your team. It's just the screenshots for MFL. We currently support Sleeper and ESPN Dynasty on the site where you can integrate into my teams, but MFL is not supported for whatever reason. That's a dev question. It's above my pay grade. We'll have to sort this out just on the screenshots.
And full transparency, it's a lot harder for us to do this live on stream. Usually when we're recording a video for DD, it's something that we can at least discuss beforehand because it's hard to sort out. But for us specifically, it's hard to do in the live. Also, we still got a couple more submissions.
Yeah, I know. It didn't let me refresh for some reason.
You're good,
I'm just going back into the thing here.
I was tweaking for a second.
I guess I could have just hit this button. I'm kind of dumb.
James, I got the email notification. You should be able to show up now.
Yeah. You'll show up here in a second.
Yep.
Okay. P. Millen, VB Davis. There we go. We also got a trade question, which we can quickly answer here.
And I know
mode just traded.
P, we're finishing out the queue that we have right now. Corey has a hard deadline at 4:00.
This is his question, by the way, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Rebuild mode just traded assets for 104 and 108. So Josh Allen, George Pickens, he got 111, Puka Nacua, and JJ McCarthy. It's funny because we were literally talking about trading Lamar for, what was it, Puka Nacua, Michael Penix in a second. And I literally said you should probably get a first instead of a second. This is essentially the same trade package.
I tweaked for a second because our cam was covering Puka. I thought you traded Allen and Pickens for 111 and McCarthy.
Yeah, no. So here's my thought, though. I mean, Pickens and the 111 is about equal. So this is McCarthy and Puka for Allen. I'm not saying this couldn't work out where McCarthy's an absolute stud and Nakua's a stud. I think I would have wanted more for Josh Allen.
Did he already confirm do the deal? Or is he asking us our thoughts on it?
He's saying rebuild. He said rebuild mode. So I'm assuming he's selling Allen for this, or maybe he's asking for this advice. If you haven't done this trade, I would not accept this.
Let's look at a counter real quick. So let's just say you are selling Allen. What would we need? Let's go to the next tab. Press the plus button. Okay, so let's go to his assets. Is that an early to mid first at the top there, first and foremost?
It's going to let me
click it
in. Maybe I got to take Puka out of it or JJ out.
Take the 111 out.
It's not letting me take these guys out for some reason. Maybe it's option 1. Okay, I don't know why it's doing this. Here we go. Early to mid second, early to mid first. Yeah, early to mid first.
Can you do that?
So let me ask you this. Would you do this?
No.
So you'd want a slight tier up in terms of getting off of Pickens and getting the early to mid 1?
Yeah, because even if we equate McCarthy to a mid to late 1 and Puka's, we'll say 2 strong, like I would need 4 strong ones for Allen. Okay, let's just say it's that. Maybe you have to throw a 2 in. Like that like I'd be willing to give a 2 back here just so he supplemented back a pick. No, not the first. Any type of 2. Yeah. If it's like that, I think it's more reasonable because you're banking more upside on that first, completely destroying the second in terms of valuation.
This is like kind of not that much for Allen.
That's what I mean.
We're doing our trade value chart update right now. Like me and Danny got our dynasty rankings, 1 quarterback superflex completely up to date, and I'm going through position by position and updating how much of a trade package you need for players like this. And Dog, our trade calculator says you almost need 5 ones for Josh Allen. Like he's that valuable. Yeah. Like especially if none of them are early projected ones. Like if you're just talking, let's say a contender wants to go all in and push in on Josh Allen, and they have 3 projected mid to late ones next year and 2 projected mid to late ones in 2027. I might need legitimately all 5 of those picks if none of them are projected early.
Yeah, that's the thing too. If they're like mid to late projections, it's like,
and 111 in a class that's not really that great at that area of the draft is more like an early second in last year's class, for example.
Yeah, like when we plug it in for our rankings. So let's go Danny McKinnon. And I also got to switch the settings. That's another thing too, by the way. Super flex, yes. Tight end premium, yes. 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end. We'll say what? 2, how much is it? Star 9? So what's that? 2 flexes, full PPR, 10 plus bench spots. We save it in here. I plug this into the calculator. Yeah, it still says you slightly lose by my rankings, even when we include the 2026 early to mid 2 and the 2026 early to mid 1.
Yeah, like it's not great, man. When you're selling Josh Allen, like here's the tough thing. When you're rebuilding,
yours say you lose outright, by the way.
Yeah, when you're rebuilding, one of the hardest things you can do reasonably is get fair market value for a guy like Josh Allen. It's just hard because nobody has that kind of asset capital usually.
Yeah, like for what it's worth, this is this is
like take the second out of the deal. Does it get closer? Like nope. You're still like take Pickens out of the deal. Like you're still losing. Like that's the way that our calculator is structured is that those elite assets
they have are valued. Like this is just fair for me, and like it's
less for me because I have McCarthy and Nakua a little bit lower than you. That's why.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But yeah, dude, when you're selling Josh Allen, you need an overpay, and very few dynasty players have an overpay's worth of assets on their roster.
Go to the CeeDee Lamb team. Let's just look at the My Teams feature. Like you would need.
We got to move on this, and this is
you're right.
So we are going to have to move on this one. I would say this is not enough for you to sell Josh Allen for what it's worth.
I agree. Not enough.
Whatever the initial trade is, this is not even close to enough, to be honest with me. And going back to Arthur's trade, like I don't think Penix in a second and Puka was enough for Lamar either, for what it's worth.
I agree.
But anyways, we got 2 more reviews and then we'll head out of here. We got Bailey. Thankfully, it's a flex team. Scott's in the league. I see Cali God, a couple of classics in here.
Yeah, shout out the old BDG classics with like Cali God and all those boys.
Yeah, I don't recognize anybody.
Dude,
paid via PayPal is funny.
If you guys don't know, by the way, Scott Cano, number 2 in that league, is the OG Dynasty finesser. This guy was finessing Dynasty trades before we were even in Dynasty leagues. That guy is the OG of OGs.
Yeah, he cooks. He cooks completely. Anyways,
Bailey's all of his teams are stacked.
Yeah, Bailey's team here, 2 quarterback, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud. As the main quarterbacks, very light at running back, but you do have the pick capital to be able to fill that out this year. If you look at all those picks, I'm literally blocking some of them. There's like that many in this year's class. Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Odunze. I mean, realistically, this wide receiver core is done. You don't have to add a single person to it. And then tight end wise, you're done at that position too. So other than QB3 and running back, this team's insanely good. So all you have to do realistically, 103. Hopefully Hampton falls to you there, and Hunter
does 102. Just take Hunter and trade one of your receivers. Like you're
honestly, if I were you, I would trade up to Genty in this position.
Yeah, you could do that too. Honestly, I'm fine with staying at 103. If it's Hunter, you just trade away a JSN for a running back. Like, can you get up to Devon Achane with JSN?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not like I would just use the picks, man. I think the assets that you've built out as far as your veterans are probably like set. You have so many picks this year, and probably not even the amount of roster spaces to be able to hold and house all these picks. So you might as well get aggressive, trade up from 103, give him 202, 211, 303, and 403. Just give him all those picks to get up to Genty. I don't really care.
Yep, absolutely.
And then just fill out your running back core with the rest of these picks. Let's say you walk away with Genty and you had to give up 203, 303, and 403 for it, and maybe a second and 26 or something. That's what you had to give up to get to Genty. You get Genty.
I mean, like me personally, I have Hunter in the tier with Genty, so I'm a little bit more hesitant with that. But
I love Genty. I've already traded up for Genty twice. So
I love Genty, but I also love Hunter.
Yes, I know you do. Anyways, let's say you kept Hampton even, or you go up and get Genty. You get one of those guys, 111. You should be able to secure like a Caleb Johnson there if you want to grab another running back, or 111, 202, 203. Ideally, you would end up with Caleb Johnson, Jackson Dart, and RJ Harvey. That would be the best case scenario for you if you ended up with those guys. Worst case scenario, you take another shot on Burden or Jaden Higgins or Matthew Golden or something like that with one of those selections. Tight end wise, you don't really need any of those guys. Maybe you could trade off of that pick if you wanted to. You also, like, given the fact that this team is kind of ready to compete, you could sell one of these early 2s for a competitive running back. If you really wanted to go get Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon or Alvin Kamara or something like that, reasonably you could get away with it with this team because this is a team that is ready to win and ready to win immediately. And 2, if you don't want to take the risk on Jackson Dart missing, You could also sell one of those early 2s or late 1s for a third quarterback if you wanted to. Like, does 111 get you in the range of a JJ McCarthy? You could always sell that for a third quarterback. Does 202 get you anywhere close to a Tua Tagovailoa or a Jared Goff? Potentially, you could always go in that direction as well.
I mean, regardless, you have so many picks. Go and consolidate. You have enough depth to be creative. You have enough depth to be able to consolidate with this team. You need to add running backs. Outside of that, I mean, your quarterbacks are 7 technically because you don't have a quarterback 3. I'll tell you right now, you're starting 2 quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, perfectly fine. Running backs, like you said, you need to add. Wide receivers, you're basically already set. Trey McBride, obviously, you're set at tight end. Tucker Kraft, you don't even need Tucker Kraft as your tight end 2. But the fact that you have Tucker Kraft as your tight end 2, in addition to Trey McBride, kind of.
And Kyle Pitts is your tight end 3.
Yeah, you're vibing. You're vibing. Yeah.
You don't need any wide receivers. You don't need any tight ends. You just need a third quarterback and running back help. And ideally, really good running back help because the rest of this team is ready to compete. Genty would go a long way. Any other needle-moving running back production pieces? Does 111 plus 202 get you Breece Hall on the open market? Like, you could go trade for a running back as well. Doesn't have to be rookie picks at that point. So last team, and then I got to head out of here. Hopefully nobody else has submitted. I'll refresh it one more time, but hopefully no one else has submitted. As much as we appreciate it, I do actually have to go here. So James D, of course, who was in the chat, is BRB under construction. He said this is the worst team you're ever going to see, and my team's future agrees.
At least you have picks.
At least you have picks, indeed. These are the types of teams that I'm not committed to sell to anyone, anybody, any pick.
Hey, guess what, James? My best advice for this team, given the state, and again, we're being kind. We're not going to be rude. We're not going to say, hey, listen, your team's yours, haha. Like, no, like, you understand the situation of your team. You have 5 future firsts in 2027 right off the bat. As soon as the draft class gets closer, your team value is going to go up.
5 ones in 26 too.
So I would keep the trend going. Like, guess what? I'm perfectly fine making any one of those picks of this year. But if somebody says, hey, I'm willing to offer you a 2026 1 and 2 for your 110, you're taking it. 2027 1 2 for your 110, you're taking it. 2028 1 2 for your 110, you're taking it. If you can get just little bumps of value on any one of those picks, I'm fine taking the offer on the market. But you do have enough picks in the next 2 years to the point where I'm not just accepting 80 cents on the dollar for those picks. Like, I am trying to get at least full market, even up to a 1.1, 1.2 premium if I can. If not, I'm perfectly comfortable making those picks. For what it's worth, for having a team that needs a lot of work, you monopolize the next 2 classes, very good. You realize my team is not nearly close to competing right now. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to build up as much future value in picks as possible because those won't lose value.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so when the Panthers and Jaguars entered the NFL in the expansion, they just like churned their roster like crazy, bringing in street free agents, undrafted free agents, and they cut them to create cap space. And it was just churning and churning and churning and finding the best possible players. That's essentially what you're going to do with this team. Like, let's say you don't trade many of these picks and you spend most of them in 2025. Yeah. Let's say 3 or 4 of them hit big for you or hit solidly for you. You're churning those players. You're throwing the other guys on your taxi squad, and then you're cutting bait with the floor noise and the Manuel Wilsons and Kenny Pickett's of the world. And you're just going to do the same thing again in 2026 until you churn and churn and churn until you have good wide receivers, good running backs, good tight ends, and good quarterbacks.
Yeah, like if you want to rebuild around McCarthy, I think that's fine. However, if you do get a good Godfather offer for him, I also don't think he's completely on this team. However, if it's just I have McCarthy in my lineup and every other piece, we're talking Isaiah Davis, we're talking Josh Downs, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Coker, Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, Jonathan Mingo has a couple good weeks because the Cowboys don't have anything fucking else in their wide receiver core. Noah Gray, maybe because Travis Kelce got hurt. The rest of your team should be, can I capitalize and get 2s? Can I get 3s? Can I just get instant prof games? Maybe for down specifically, you need a little bit more than that straight up. But the point is, view all of your team as just, what can I get it from a liquidity perspective? What are they worth on the open market? Because if it's at a point in season where you have JJ McCarthy in your quarterback spot and quite literally nothing else in your lineup, that is optimal.
Yeah. Yeah, your team is like a slot machine. You just want as much dopamine as humanly possible. Get these players off of your team. And he said too, like, who are some good targets at 107 and 110? 2 names stand out to me specifically because of the state of your team. 107, Emeka Egbuka stands out as a really good target because he's not going to probably be extremely productive right away, which is good for your team to tank your own pick. 110, Colston Loveland stands out as a really good target because he's probably also not going to be extremely productive right away. So when it comes to your team, you have the gift of time. You don't need your rookie to produce right away. You don't need, Tyler Warren over Loveland, because if Loveland takes 2 to 3 years to develop, that's actually good for you. That's when your team is going to be ready to compete anyways.
It is so funny because if you look at, I'll just pull up, this is an expert league. So keep in mind, like this is an analyst league that has, like Jacob Sanderson, Ron Stewart, Wiser Fantasy on Twitter, Paul Patterson, you guys might know, I believe Pure Potential is his YouTube channel. Like a lot of well-known analysts, right? If I pull up my team from 2022, this is what stripping down a team completely looks like. I will show you this team, and I'll show you what the current team is in a second. And then I know Corey's got to run because we're pretty much done the review part. I'm just going to show this, and if you have to leave, feel free to do so. But this was the team: Fields, Algier, Lamb, McLaurin. I'm starting Donovan Peoples-Jones and Jahan Dotson on bye weeks. Damian Harris on bye week. He wasn't even on a roster. Like, this is the type of team that I was dealing with. And this is what the team looks like now. If I pull up,
okay, let me just, before you show that, let me just quickly wrap up this so that I can head out.
Go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so all you have to do with this team, we already went through it and covered it in depth. You recognized in the chat, I'll probably be competitive by 2027, and that is precisely the right way to approach this, because the 2027 class is also going to be really good, especially at the top. I bet my bottom dollar that Arch Manning is in 27's class, not in 26's. So you're looking at Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Arch Manning, and all those guys. That is going to be an exceptional class. Monopolize it if you can. Get as many 27 picks as you can, because if you're on the board at 110 this year and someone offers you their 27, 1 and 2, take it, because that's when you're going to be competitive anyways. And that class projects to be very strong. So that would be my last piece of advice, is try and get a lot of picks in that class. But for the most part, you kind of know what you're doing. At 107, take a player who's not going to help you right away. That's a good projection, like Emeka Egbuka. Colston Loveland at 110 makes a lot of sense. 203, 204. Again, keep investing into assets that are going to hold value ideally, but also guys that could gain value in the long term. Like 203, for example, Jackson Dart, probably not going to start right away. He would be a good asset to invest in at that point in time. So I'm going to head out. Danny can close it out from here. Appreciate all of you guys for submitting team reviews. If you want to submit them, it is linked, first link in the description of this video. And of course, you get a free one if you sign up annually over on Flock Fantasy. Use the promo code FSE, and you can get buy, sell, hold reports for free when you sign up over there as well. So appreciate you guys for joining us, and Danny can close us out right here.
Yep. The last thing I'll basically mention, again, I'm not going to spend too long here. I'll probably head out soon as well. But you saw the team that was in the 2022 season. I also tanked in the 2023 season. So that was a 2-year tank out of the startup, the initial year, like I said, in 2022. We headed into obviously the 2024 season. I won the championship this past year. And now going into 2025, this is the state of my team. So quarterback, Allen, Prescott. Running back, Achane, Barkley, Kyron, Jonathan Taylor. Wide receiver, Lamb, Neighbors, London, Ayuk, Godwin, Evans. Sam Laporta at tight end. I also still have a 106 this year, as well as my own 2026 first-round pick. My Flock League analyzer is at 35,362, about 11,000 more than anybody else in this league. So when I say you are able to have a roster that quite literally doesn't even have players in it. Like I mentioned, Damian Harris was in my starting lineup. Tyler Algier was in my starting lineup. Michael Gallup, Pat Freiermuth, Jahan Dotson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Absolutely no freaking depth. But because you can monopolize classes, you're able to rebuild your team very quickly. And like I said, that was a 2-year process. Obviously, I got some lucky, got some good values, which is why there were no players on that team. It was solely in pick equity. But once I realized I was able to compete, that's when I started cashing in some of my pick capital. That's the other thing too. You don't have to make all of those picks. You want to make a vast majority to rebuild from a young perspective. But knowing and identifying opportunities to buy low, you'll have the affordability because you have all those picks. Again, last note I wanted to make. Hopefully, like you said, that is inspiring. Needed to see it. Yeah, anytime, man. Trust the process. You have 10 highly valued picks in the next couple of years. If you have the opportunity, just keep adding to it. The other thing, should I still grab running back and just sell them if they hit? I mean, it depends. If it's the best value on the board and you can't sell it on the clock, I think that's fine. I wouldn't want to pigeonhole myself into getting a running back, but if you're just not getting any equitable offers on the market and you have to take a guy and maybe wait for him to get opportunity, I think that's reasonable. Like, especially if you're, let's just say, in the 3rd round and you take like I don't know, like a Dylan Sampson type. And if Judkins were to go down for a couple weeks, he had a very, very good couple week stretch. You can sell high on him. Like there's opportunities throughout your rookie drafts. It really just depends on what the relatable market offer is at that current time. So again, hopefully that helped you a lot. Again, appreciate you guys for watching for the last an hour and 48. Like I said, that would be the final note I make. And yeah, stay tuned. We're going to try to do this as frequently as we can. Obviously, if you guys do want a team review, flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE. If you are an annual Mother Flocker, you do get a team review for free, as well as if you want to just purchase one, maybe you're already a Flock subscriber, you're an FSE subscriber, we do have the link in the description of this live stream. But again, appreciate you guys for sticking around. Take care, and I'm going to go ahead to dinner within about an hour. So peace out.